Good morning. This is Ron Brown again. This is the second follow-up video to the webinar that I did with Gil Morales on Thursday. I just want to point out some things you can do with HCS that you can't do with other programs. So I'm going to take you through that process. Before we go any further, I want to point out that I do make occasional fixes and changes to the files. In fact, I altered a filter today that wasn't working quite right. So I want you to make sure that you always go to the add-ons page. I'll usually instruct you when I want you to do this, and I'd like you to do it today if you've installed the files already. Just go to Gil's name, select download zip file, and then you're going to get this message right here. Zip can't be downloaded. If you get that message, just select keep anyway, and then save the file. I've obviously already done this today, and then just click on yes. And then after that, what you're going to do is go to your preferences menu, select install add-on, and you want to locate that file. It went in my downloads folders. Select it, and then just go ahead and rebuild everything, and you'll be up to date. Really nothing to it. Now, for those of you who are in the Insider Club, and also for other users, I've decided to work on a project where I break out these user smart groups, because I've got so many user smart groups it becomes very confusing. So I'm just starting on this project. It's going to take me some time, but I'm going to link the individual smart groups on a PDF file, and then provide this or these links to the users so you can just download and install the smart groups that you want to use. Hopefully over time I'll be able to make a 2 or 3 minute video of each of these to show you how they work and what they do. The purpose is to provide you with only the user smart groups that you want to use for your specific style of investing and trading. So let's move on. I want to show you something that is unique to HCSI. It's based upon the Undercut and Rally charts and the scorecard that I provide in my insider files and in Gil's files. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go into my designer. I'm going to go to the reference groups. I'm going to the industries and sectors. I'll click through to the warehouse. And the warehouse view that I want, you will locate it in my files or in Gil's files. It is 01 for end of day. Since I'm doing this on the weekend, I'm interested in end of day. I'm going to do some prospecting. And I want to make sure that there's no filter engaged. You should have 175 groups. If this filter, I'm going to engage the filter. You engage the filter right here. If that's engaged, it cuts it down to 113. That's because some of these groups don't meet the minimum volume requirements. But I want to look at all the groups. So there's two ways you can disengage this. You can hold your shift key and click on this. You can see it's disengaged. Or you can, let me re-engage it here. Or you can click on it, open this up, scroll down, and select no filter. Either way works. Now what I want to do in this video is use the Undercut and Rally chart. We went over this briefly in the webinar, and then I used it in the prior video. But what this chart does is it generates a light blue line if there is accumulation, and that accumulation can either be from a VPA flag or a bullish candle or a combination of the two. So you can see on home builders, it was falling. The 3 was below the 6. It shows down here in the histogram. The 6 was below the 18 and the 18 below the 50. So clearly in a downtrend. Then we're starting to see some accumulation back here. There is a 3 crossing the 6. You can see it at this point. It's also on the histogram. So we get expansion to the upside, and then we get contraction, a little bit of pullback, but it's not enough to make the 3 cross the 6. Yes, it is. I'm sorry. Right here, it crosses the 6. But at the same time, we're seeing more accumulation right here in the light blue bar. And then we have a positive crossover, the 3 crossing the 6, and it really has not looked back since then. It went from expansion to contraction, started to expand again, little 2-day pullback with VPA flags here, and then it is still holding up. The reason there are no light blue bars here is because the 3 remains above the 6. For these accumulation bars to appear, the 3 has to be below the 6. So going back to the warehouse view, I can look at the scorecard here, and these are the Wyckoff columns that are built into HGSI based upon volume, spread, and close. The volume was less than average. Spread was below average, but the close is very high. And if I bring that chart back up, you can see the close is very high on this bar. Volume is below average, and the spread is below average compared to the average spreads. And this information, the spread and volume and so on, are based upon math. If you want to learn what these actually mean, just go to your help file, table of contents, and type in VPA. That should do it. And there is a lot of information about volume price analysis here. The first link, volume price analysis, will take you to this information. And if you go down here, it talks about the volume, what's very high, high, and so on, and the spread and the close. So that information is in the help file. Looking at this, I can tell how old the signal is. It was 20 days ago. 0 is the crossover days, and the volume point of control crossed over 27 days ago. That information can be seen. That's 27 days ago on the volume point of control, and the crossover is right here. That number of days was 19. So I can look at these and see which groups crossed over and how old the signals are. Let's take it down to the next level. Let's go to the industry group. That information is contained in here, and if you look down the columns, you can see that there are some more recent signals on the 3-6 crossover and the volume point of control crossover, and there are some negative signals. So looking at the top one, DR Horton, this happened 26 days ago. The volume point of control happened 21 days ago. What that tells me immediately is that the 3 crossed the 6, and then there was a pullback day after that happened because this number is less than this number. Looking at the Wyckoff indicators, less than average volume, below average, but it closed very high. So let's take a look at this chart. Here's DR Horton. This information, I'm going to move this over just a hair. This information right here, less than average. I have to click on the correct one. Below average and very high corresponds to what's in the warehouse view. So what this tells me, since this closed very high on lower volume, this is potentially forming a flag and setting up again. Let's take look at another one. Oh, I want to go back to this one. Here's that pullback that I was talking about on the VPOC. The 3 crossed the 6. Here's the pullback. It turned rose-colored, and then it turned blue again as the bulls took control. Let me put the crosshair on here. Right here at the low, the VPOC turned positive again. Then we had a test, confirmation of that test on an effort to rise. It expanded, went into contraction, starting to expand again. Let's look at the next one, Lennar. How old are these signals? 26 days ago. So that tells me that 26 days ago, that would be right here and right here. Both the volume point of control crossed and the 3 crossed the 6 after a couple of days of accumulation. Okay, let's go down here. Let's look at some of these signals to the downside. The 3 crossed the 6 on Century Communities yesterday, but the volume point of control is still positive, above average volume, narrow spread, close very high. So it's a pullback. This has been moving up nicely, a 2-day pullback. We're getting another negative VPA flag, but you can see that this closed in the upper part of its range. So buyers did come in, and the volume point of control turned positive again. It doesn't mean it's going to go up, but it means there is some support there, and this is right at the 50-day and the 18-day moving averages. Okay, let's look at one more here. This crossed down, let's look at Pulte. Crossed down 4 days ago. Same thing on the volume point of control. Okay, here was the cross down on both of these, if you look up here. And now we're seeing accumulation and accumulation again with a low volume test. So if this group continues to move up, there's a chance that there could be a low risk entry here. Okay, I'm going to go back up to the industry groups. And by the way, I'm assuming the program is shipped with equal dollar weighting for 52 weeks. So this is what I'm using for my calculations on the index. So I'll show you that very quickly. You can check and make sure your settings are the same if you're trying to compare your settings to mine. Just go under Preferences under Global Index Options. Check equal dollar weighting, 52 weeks for the relative start date, and use this filter, no filter. I often use the default filter, stocks $5 and above, but in this instance I just used no filter. Okay, you can use whatever you want to use, but if you're trying to match what I have, just make sure you have these settings. Okay, and I'm going to resort with the down arrow and go up to the top here, and you can see that there are several groups where the 3 is below the 6, 15 groups. And then by doing this, we can quickly look for groups that are crossing to the upside. Here's the electric, gas, and marketing. I think there's only a couple of stocks in here. And if you look over here, only 17,000 shares traded for the stocks in the group. Let's see how many are in here. There's only 2. So I'm not going to use that one. Let's look at this one. Food product wholesalers is crossing over. So if I bring this up, looks like it's been a long accumulation period for this group and it's really choppy. I'm not going to look there. Let's look at this one. Here is one where the volume point of control crossed over, but once again volume is low, so I'm not really interested. How about internet-based services? Crossing over today, The VPOC crossed over 2 days ago, and it too has really been struggling. But let's take a look at it because there's volume in here. So I'm going to go down to the industry group. There's 127 stocks in this group, and you can see a lot of them are negative. So I'm going to scroll down here. I want to quickly find some stocks that are crossing over to the upside and check that and the volume point of control. I'm not familiar with this stock, Compass. The volume was low, very narrow spread, and it closed in the middle, so it's probably not going to be a real strong move here. 4 million shares are trading, and it's a little inexpensive stock. I'm not really interested in it. And that one looks like a buyout. Okay, now here's one that's more interesting. And what do we have here? 0. Nice uptrend. It pulled back for 3 days. Well, this isn't really a pullback here. These 2 days, where did it end up? On the 50 and the 18. It's below the 200 and the 100. So the main trend is still down. But here's an accumulation day, another one. And it crossed over, and there are 3 pocket pivot days, plus a volume point of control. Now, I'm going to move this back over here so we can see the information here. The PE, well, it's had some earnings. It just missed last quarter. The earnings are due on the 4th of August. This is a stock that I want to follow next week. So I'm going to quick add to group. I'm going to choose a group, go to the user groups. I'm going to click new, watch list, and that'll be August 1st. And I'll add that to my watch list. Okay. Now let's look at this. You can see the close was very high, which matches this. Spread was narrow. Volume was low, even though there is a pocket pivot. Volume is low, but this volume is higher than any down volume over either the past 5 or 10 days. Let's look at Godaddy. Now this is a pretty loose chart. I like that prior chart much better than this. But this meets the criteria. Here's an accumulation day. This was actually an accumulation day too if you just look at the candle, because it closed in the upper part of the wick and then this closed on its high with a pocket pivot. But you've got short-term resistance right here. I'm just not crazy about that stock. Let's look at this one. Cheap stock. Okay. I'm looking for a name. Here is LegalZoom. I know that name. The VPOC crossed over 9 days ago, and the 3 crossed the 6 yesterday. Okay, the volume point of control crossed clear back here, and even though there was a sell-off here, the volume really was not great enough to change the volume point of control to negative. Here is a selling climax and starting to move up, but clearly putting it in context, look at the fan down 200, 100, the 50, the 18. This is clearly a bottom fish. And you're going to find a lot of this just looking for these crossovers that have been down a while. If you want to find the strength, concentrate on the stocks that have crossed over long ago. Now, once again, I'm not familiar with this stock at all. It's $1, no wonder. Let's go down here to Make My Trip. This is a $32 stock. The 3 crossed the 6 16 days ago, but notice the volume point of control crossed 2 days ago, or actually 3 days ago, 0 being the crossover day. What does this tell us? It tells us that this stock has been pretty strong, but there was a pullback 3 days ago, and now it's moving. These 2 columns right here, I haven't mentioned these yet. This is a comparison to the S&P 500 over 5 or 10 days. If it's above 1, it's outperformed the S&P. Over 5 days by 6%, over 10 days by 11%. So let's look at Make My Trip. And you can see much different looking stock, but the problem is it is moving already. Doesn't mean it won't move more, but you want to catch them. Ideally, the place to catch a stock like this is on this pullback on the volume point of control, where the 3 has remained above the 6, just barely, but you catch them on a pullback, and then the next day with a nice wide candle or a volume point of control, and that's a good place to get on these stocks. Now, I've been doing this manually, and you can see how you can do it easily, and if I weren't talking, I could really make some progress. But anyway, this is a good way to do it, or a faster way, of course, is with the user smart groups, and I don't have many smart groups in here yet. And I'm going to, like I said, put them on a list for you to download what you want. A good place to not necessarily find the crossovers like I've been showing you, but if you want to find some leading stocks, go into these box stocks or stocks having consistent earnings growth over different time periods. Just look in here, and you can see that I limited this to 50. If you sort on the raw combo, you're going to find strength. But a lot of these stocks are going to be gone. But just use this Undercut and Rally chart, and you can see where the conditions for the buy were met. And that's what we're looking for. We're not looking to chase these, but they can set up again and go again. These stocks are what I call box stocks leaders. Now here's one which would not be, let's see, earnings date 8/24. Here it went from expansion to contraction, and expansion is starting again with 2 strong VPA flags. Effort to rise. It's not too extended from this area here where it paused to refresh, as Ian used to say. Quick add to group. I'm going to add it to that group. Now I wouldn't be chasing Chevron or this one or this one. You can flip through these very quickly by using the arrow, or you can, if you highlight that area, use your down arrow key on your keyboard. You can quickly go through these stocks. Here was a flag, and now it's going again. But in my opinion, it's too late to jump on these stocks. Most of them. But like I said, it doesn't mean they're not going to continue to go. It's just that when they're extended, the risk increases. Now this is a nice slow steady gainer with an effort to rise. I'm going to add that to my group. I'm going to watch it on Monday. Steel Dynamics. Let's look up here. I haven't been mentioning this, but you always need to look up here at the top. See what the group is doing. It's only a group rank of 42, but what's more important than the rank is the direction of the group. This is moving up, and it obviously got away. Here's the really great signal. The 3 and 6 crossover with a test within, after the crossover, a test, confirmation of that test, and then it went from contraction to expansion, and it's moved up considerably. I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to end this video. And I don't like that one. I said I was going to end the video, but let's take a look at one more. These are counter trend stocks that are box stocks. Just take a look here quickly. You can see, looking down this column, that the days down since the 3 crossed the 6. This means these are counter trend stocks. Let's go down to cross-country healthcare. And the reason my eye went here is because the volume point of control is positive and has been for 29 days. The 3 crossed down yesterday, the 3 through the 6, but I want to take a look at this stock. You can see a beautiful run here. This is a shakeout. 2 accumulation days. It crossed over, but it failed. And it's worth watching, though. Let's take a look up here. Earnings are the 3rd, so you have to be careful of that. It's only a couple of days away. Going to add it to my quick add to group. Let's see if I can find one more of these. Nothing that extreme. Here's one, American Healthcare, down, crossed down 6 days ago, but the VPOC, volume point of control, was positive 3 days ago. And not a bad looking stock. A little bit expensive. If it has options that are liquid, it could be played that way. 1, 2, 3, 4 accumulation days, and then a pullback day, but not a bad looking, good looking chart. Quick add to group. No, I don't like it as much as some of the others, but AutoZone's too expensive. Radiant Logistics, another pullback stock here. Kind of loose. I'm not really interested. Okay, that's it. I just wanted to show you how you can use this chart in conjunction with the scorecard, get a lot of information about the Wyckoff indicators. Looking up here at Richardson Electronics, you can see high, wide, high. Even though it crossed down, let's take a look at that. Semiconductor manufacturing crossed down, but this is a pretty good, pretty strong candle with a low volume test. A little bit loose, but worth following. If you followed these, you can see how these do next week. And if you like this method of prospecting, I suggest you give it a try, because looking at those stocks that are leaders now, you can see that they all broke out, the 3 crossing above the 6. It's a standard, my standard way to look for stocks that are starting to move. Thank you.